Bangladesh now faces a courtroom storm. In October 2025, the new interim government announced that more than a dozen serving army officers have been placed in custody, accused of crimes committed under the ousted Sheikh Hasina regime. The move has sent shockwaves through the nation. Never before has the military, seen as a pillar of stability in Bangladesh, been so publicly entangled in a war of justice, memory, and accountability. Families of victims of enforced disappearances stand in the streets of Dhaka, holding up portraits and demanding answers. The past is no longer buried. It's coming back to headline the present. To fully grasp what's unfolding, we must go back a few years. Sheikh Hasina, one of Bangladesh's longest-serving prime ministers, governed for 15 years until mass protests toppled her in August 2024. Her tenure was marked by steadily tightening control over the judiciary, security forces, and media. Human rights groups accused her government, especially its security apparatus, of grave abuses, abductions, secret detentions, torture, and enforced disappearances of political dissidents. The Rapid Action Battalion, RAB, and the Directorate General of Forces Intelligence, DGFI, in particular, were often singled out for operating covert black sites, like the infamous House of Mirrors, where hundreds of individuals reportedly vanished without trace. The mechanism of impunity was complex. While public protest was crushed by force, the architecture of silence, state secrecy, media censorship, and intimidation allowed abuses to persist. When protests erupted in mid-2024, a wave of student-led unrest escalated into a broader anti-government movement. By July and August, the streets of Dhaka were on fire. The crackdown was brutal. According to local reports and human rights organizations, more than 1,400 people died in clashes with security forces. The International Crimes Tribunal, ICT, originally founded by Hasina's government in 2009 to try 1971 war crimes, was repurposed by the new administration to prosecute these recent atrocities. On October 8, 2025, the ICT issued arrest warrants for 32 individuals, including Sheikh Hasina herself, her military secretary Major General Ahmed, and dozens of current and former security officers. The charges were severe: enforced disappearance, torture, abduction, and extrajudicial killings. The tribunal's decision was historic. Never before had so many serving or ex-officials been targeted at once for such severe accusations. Within days, the Bangladesh Army announced that 15 officers, 14 active and 1 on leave preparatory retirement, LPR, were now in military custody. Among those named are Lieutenant Colonel Abdullah, a former Rapid Action Battalion commander now accused of leading forced operations, and others attached to DGFI or RAB during her administration. Meanwhile, Major General Ahmed, once Hasina's military secretary, has reportedly gone into hiding, his whereabouts unconfirmed. But this is not a simpler story of arrests. Legal, constitutional, and ethical wrangling has begun. Chief Prosecutor Muhammad Tajul Islam made it clear that no one, including these officers, may be held for over 24 hours without being produced before a tribunal, unless a court gives explicit permission. So far, the tribunal has claimed it has not even received formal notification of their detentions. The army, for its part, maintains that while the officers were affiliated with Bangladesh Army at the time of the alleged crimes, they served in RAB or DGFI, thus complicating jurisdiction. Some suspect the military custody move aims to shield the officers from civilian arrest or to manage optics within the chain of command. The arrests are also intimately tied to the Operation Devil Hunt, a sweeping campaign launched in February 2025 by the interim government to root out loyalists of the Hasina regime called criminals, cartel operators, and political enablers. Over 11,000 persons have been arrested under that operation, including Awami League members, party activists, and security officials. Analysts say the new detentions reflect a shift from symbolic repression to targeting the structural enforcers themselves, forcing institutions to confront their accountability. These courtroom gambits land in a tense electoral landscape. Elections are slated for February 2026, and political tension is already rising. Supporters of Hasina accuse the interim government, led by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus, of using the tribunal to settle political scores, banning the Awami League under the anti-terrorism law, and suppressing dissent. But for many victims and activists, these trials offer what the past never did: a chance for truth, restitution, and a break from the culture of impunity that for decades has shrouded the security state. The arrests deepen fissures within the military security establishment. To detain serving officers, especially in a country where the military is often seen as a stabilizer, is inherently risky. Hardliners may resist, others may fear that they are next. Will the army divide between loyalty to the uniform and obedience to the state? International actors are also watching. Human rights organizations have expressed cautious support, but stress that fairness, transparency, and rule of law cannot be sacrificed amid political vendettas. For the citizens of Bangladesh, those whose loved ones vanished into black sites, whose protests were crushed, whose voices were silenced, this moment carries both trepidation and hope. The demands echo: accountability, justice, constitutional order. If the trials succeed, they might redefine the boundaries of power, that not even the armed apparatus can hide from the law. If they fail, through procedural abuses or political interference, they may reinforce the bleak lesson that in Bangladesh, power shields those who wield it. The path ahead is fraught. On October 22nd, the tribunal will decide whether these officers face formal arrest or bail. How the trials will unfold will signal just how far the state is willing to go. In parallel, Hasina's trial in absentia proceeds, her supporters lobbying India to resist extradition. The question hangs over the nation: will Bangladesh enter a new chapter of accountability, or will history repeat, masking old abuses with fresh institutional theater? In this drama of power, identity, and justice, Bangladesh is testing itself. The true measure will not be in arrests, but in how they are handled, with transparency, dignity, and adherence to due process. A security state undone from within is possible. What remains to be seen is whether the people reclaim the rule of law, or whether an old system cloaked in new colors reclaims its hold. The world watches as Bangladesh steps onto its trial stage. In a land once haunted by silence, the sound of shackles and subpoenas may yet echo the promise that no regime, no uniform, and no injustice can remain unchallenged forever.